And a warm welcome again to the big match. And 3 more games on today's programmes. For our main match, we go into the second division to pick up Fulham against Burnley. We also have some truly brilliant action as Manchester City meet Norwich in the first division. And our bonus match this week, we'll bring you the goals from Leeds United against West Bromwich Albion. We have Allan Mullery, the Fulham skipper, as our guest. And we look at your letters in which we refer to the young man in his father's arms there, today one of London's top managers. But first it's action, and for that we start at Craven Cottage. Always one of the prettiest grounds in the league, down by the river, and now with this fine new riverside stand bringing the number of seats there to a healthy ratio of 11,000 in a 40,000 capacity. But while Fulham look to the future, as well as the new, we still have that famous old cottage in the opposite corner of the ground. And overall now, Craven Cottage has a nice, compact air about it. But now let's turn our attention to the teams. Burnley were first to come out, led by skipper Martin Dobson, traditionally a young side, but now finding a place at number 10 for the more experienced Doug Collins. And they'll be facing a Fulham side at Craven Cottage on this afternoon, led out, of course, by their new skipper Allan Mullery, still without forwards Jimmy Conway and Steve Earle, and that busy little player, Stan Brown, gets a recall to number 7. A second division match book with several points of interest. Fulham goalkeeper Peter Mellor, now playing against his old club. Paul Went, who cost Fulham a record £80,000 this summer from Charlton. Allan Mullery, himself, of course, £65,000 from Tottenham. And Mullery's World Cup teammate in the Burnley side, Keith Newton, a free transfer from Everton. And then, of course, Dave Thomas, one of the most exciting youngsters in the whole of the Football League. The referee at Craven Cottage for this second division game is Terry Tosland from Kettering. And what better than an afternoon in shirt sleeves down by the Thames?
So it's Fulham who get this second division match away, defending the goal to our left in their white shirts. Burnley in claret shirts with white shorts. And a goal kick to them. Neither side really has made what you would call an auspicious start to their second division season. Fulham, who lost heavily 3-0 at Sheffield Wednesday last Saturday and then drew in the League Cup at Reading against the 4th division side on Wednesday. And Burnley, who could only manage a 2-2 draw at home last Saturday against Carlisle. Moorline getting in, Roger Cross, former West Ham and Brentford player, but Newton there again, and now it's with Leighton James, who scored both Burnley's goals here last September when Burnley won 2-0. Dobson to Collins. Back again to Thompson. James, hustled a little unfairly in the back by Moorline, giving Burnley the free kick. Thomas quickly taking it, now Collins. Shielding that ball from Mullery and finding Newton, the little chip in, and he's onside, is he? And it's a goal given, and Leighton is the scorer. Fulham claiming that there was an offside about it, but Leighton James went on and thumped that past Peter Mellor while Fulham waited in the second minute of the game for the referee to blow that whistle for offside, and Burnley go into a shock lead. Leighton James, Welsh international, and that incidentally is the first league goal that Peter Mellor in the Fulham goal had conceded. He'd played some 8 games here last season, Alex Stock was telling me, and didn't concede a goal, and of course this is Fulham's first league game at home this season. And now Michael Doherty, son of course of Tommy Doherty. Thomas. Flicked with the outside of the boot for James. Keith Newton's gone on ahead of him, the number 3. And there's the ball for Newton. Crossed deeper this time. And Collins trying to hit one first time, but straight into the arms of Mellor. Richardson chasing this one, but Waldron right back there with him. Michael Doherty. And that was Jimmy Dunn won that one. Stan Brown. Callaghan. Waldron. Doherty again, and Collins, and Brown once more. One of these unspectacular players, Stan Brown, Fulham's longest serving player, who gets through 90 minutes of work and you very rarely notice him. But such a valuable player to have, and he was busying himself there, and Fulham get the free kick. And the referee, in fact, has got the book out for the foul by Colin Waldron for a tackle from behind, and that could well mean 4 points in this new disciplinary system, where a player, if he tots up 12 points, is suspended automatically for 2 games. So Mullery slipping it this time for Callaghan. Callaghan to Barrett, inside for Lloyd. Callaghan, game of head tennis going on, but Fulham keeping possession. A nice little flick there by Cross, and nicely taken there by Barrett. Can Barrett let this one go? He can, and it was a good save. And a nice fluent move too by Fulham that'll give them something to cling to. Waldron. And Brown, but he was harried all the way by the Burnley player. Dave Thomas. There must have been a bit of pushing or something going on there with Jim Thompson involved on Roger Cross, because the Burnley number 6 penalised, and Fulham getting a free kick. Line to take it. Swept towards Barry Lloyd. Cross hoping to get a foot in as well. Lloyd, oh, and he didn't quite get the he got the chance, but he didn't quite get the foot to it the way he wanted to. And that really was a fleeting chance there for Fulham and for Barry Lloyd. Doherty. Fletcher, a good leap and a twist of his neck. A little flick on, but it didn't make any progress for Burnley, because it's Lloyd instead, straight into the arms of Stevenson. Dobson, not very good control there by Went. Thomas to Newton. James, oh, through the legs of Moorline, the last indignity that. Oh, beautiful play there by James, but finally Mullery getting the better of him and finding Mellor. Callaghan. Richardson coming away from Waldron, turning it in nicely there for Lloyd. Now the gap opens up for Fulham. Brown is right up there too. Barrett is right up there still with Barry Lloyd. There's the one for Stan Brown to hit, and into the side netting. Well, he's just behind that stanchion. Brown, who made a lot of ground there from defence to pop up on the right for that pass for Lloyd. A good run by Lloyd. In fact, he hasn't done very much with 2 chances that really have come his way, but he's a maker of goals as well. Dunn. Richardson. This time Thompson there, finding Collins. Chased by Callaghan, and did that finally come off the Burnley player? It did, for the throw to Fulham off Doug Collins. Mullery were going across to take the Fulham throw. Barrett brought down, free kick, and the book is coming out on Michael Doherty, son of Tommy Doherty. He looks a little disappointed about it, but it was for the tackle on Barrett. The second Burnley name to go into the book. First Colin Waldron, and now Michael Doherty. It's going to be Lloyd then to take the kick. Allan Mullery right in. A deeper one this time by Lloyd. Deep towards Richardson, who got in well with his head. And it was Dobson, in fact, who had to get in before Mullery to nod it perilously close to the Burnley crossbar. And behind for the corner. With a little over 5 minutes to go to half-time. And Fulham still that one goal down. Oh, and making nothing of that corner, really. Or maybe they will. Moorline recovering well. But now Dave Thomas. Done back to Mella. Mullery. Played swiftly there, the 1-2 he hoped to get going with cross, but it didn't come off for them. And Dobson taking it away for Burnley. Thomas. Beautifully struck there again, that time with the inside of the boot into the path of Michael Doherty. Casper trying to lay it off first time. A little lucky to get a second go, and then pulled down by Went, and Went's name is going to go into the book for that tackle on Casper. The third name to go into the book. Jimmy Adamson on the right, a man who believes in pure football, the Burnley manager, and Burnley really in phases have turned it on beautifully for him this afternoon. Lloyd, Callaghan. And now Lloyd again. Cross, Richardson, the back flick not coming off, going off, Thompson into touch. We're in injury time, and well in injury time now. So if Fulham are going to pull this goal back in the first half, they've really got to do it pretty quickly. Referee looking at his watch. And there goes the whistle for half-time, with the only goal scored so early in the game by Leighton James that gives Burnley the lead. And still to come, a lot for you to enjoy on the big match this afternoon, but we're left here at Craven Cottage with a half-time score that reads Fulham 0, Burnley 1, and we'll be back with the second half of this game in just a couple of minutes. So Burnley get us away at the start of the second half, this young side that has looked so fluent, and in a bit of pain there with Collins being brought down. They've looked so fluent, so eager, pretty hungry as well, and in spite of having two players having their names taken on the Burnley side, playing the sort of football that you'd expect a side managed by a man like Jimmy Adamson to play. This one goal into the lead, scored by Leighton James so very early in the game after only 2 minutes. But now Colin Waldron with Burnley's free kick. Callaghan nodding it away. Cross on for Barrett. Fulham ragged and unsure of themselves, but showing a few signs of improvement there in the 10 minutes or so leading up to half-time. Callaghan with the free kick for them. Barrett. Cross there towards Richardson and cross. Stan Brown hoping to go in as well. And Casper now for Burnley. Coming a long way back, but keeping control very well and finding Keith Newton. Oh, Newton surely pulling back Jimmy Dunn there. And that's a free kick to Fulham. And a word of warning for Keith Newton from referee Tosland of Kettering. And so it'll be David Moorline as the sun comes out brightly again at Craven Cottage to take the free kick for Fulham. And Stevenson gathering it well. Dunn. Oh, he kept his head well there. Found Paul Went. And now for Callaghan. Richardson running as willingly as ever. This time for Barry Lloyd. Callaghan. Callaghan again. Lloyd. Putting a little more effort into it now. Fulham. Mullery. Moorline streaking down the right for him. This is David Moorline. Cross low and a deflection off a Burnley defender, Keith Newton. And a corner to Fulham. And for almost the first time in the game, you can hear the Craven Cottage crowd beginning to get behind the Fulham team, suspecting that this is a much more promising start for them. Paul Went's gone right into the 6-yard area. Mullery with the corner, and that's gone towards Went, and it's a goal! Paul Went, in his first home game in the league for Fulham. It's got to go to Went, although Michael Doherty was there, in fact, belting it into the roof of the net as he tried to get it away. Paul Went the scorer, and Fulham's equalizer. Well, we had a goal after 2 minutes of the first half. We've had one now, 5 minutes after the start of the second half. Doherty, who made a despairing effort to keep Paul Went's header out, and all he could do really was to belt it into the roof of the net. But the credit must go to the Fulham number 5, Paul Went. Yes, and there was a foul by Casper there on Mullery. And Casper's name is going into the book, the third Burnley player to go in. Burnley, a young side, and it's a little bit of a test of their character now to see how they react to having had so much of the first half and looking so good, with a goal behind them, to be pulled back so early in the second half, that surely now will get Fulham in the right frame of mind. Well, I think there's a little bit of relief in that Fulham box there. Men free on the far side, one of them is Newton. And a free kick given to Burnley, to Fulham rather. There must have been a push in the back by Newton on cross. Then you had the situation where Newton here would have suggested that he was obstructed by cross. So Moorline with Fulham's free kick. And Mullery's gone on as Burnley came forward, and Mullery was caught offside, and that was an unfair challenge, says the referee, on goalkeeper Stevenson. Mullery can't believe it and doesn't like it. But referee Tosland says Allan Mullery's name goes into the book. Well, that looked a very ordinary challenge by Mullery, the Fulham skipper, on the Burnley goalkeeper, and I think the look of Colin Waldron in the background also tells its story. He really can't believe it either. So that's 5 names now in the book, in a game that never for one moment has been anything like vicious. And Martin Dobson bringing it away at a great pace for Burnley, with Casper in fact too fast for the ball. Casper was over on his right, this is James on his left. Now Moorline's got to get another tackle in, and indeed he does. Collins to pick up the loose ball for Burnley. And cross it there. Goodness, Burnley let that go a long, Fulham rather let that one go a long, long way, in a very dangerous situation. So Burnley get a corner. Mullery still organising that Fulham defence. as the corner comes. Deep one again, went hopefully getting up, but he in fact fell for Richardson, and now it's with Keith Newton. Played wide for Collins. Beating done, but also putting it behind for Fulham's goal kick. Pitches everywhere at this time of season looking most inviting, a beautiful shade of green, and this certainly applies to the Craven Cottage pitch, always a very good one. Just about halfway through the second half now, and still 1-1. James for Burnley and Went for Fulham. Lloyd. Barrett. Oh, in for Lloyd again. Letting one go, dipping all the way, but not dipping enough. But the sort of shot that if they catch them properly are dipping all the while and are so very difficult for goalkeepers to handle. But Stevenson in the end didn't really have to handle it. And that one will go straight to Callaghan. Lloyd. Callaghan again. Now Richardson against Waldron, and Waldron, who's let so little in the air go past him this afternoon, getting in first. Brown. Turned nicely there for Paul Went. Mullery for Moorline. A lot of Fulham players being pushed forward now. Thomas getting ahead to it, but not really getting it away. Richardson and Thomas again now with a second chance. Flicking it wide of Mullery. On for James. Thomas. Thomas to Doherty. Long cross there towards Fletcher, got up very well, and Dobson goes in, and James again into the side netting after Mellor's fist clear really hadn't gone very clear. But again there was an example of how Dobson comes in so very quickly from the midfield for Burnley to cause all sorts of problems in the opposing 6-yard area. This fine Burnley number 4 and skipper. Linesman flagging for an offside against Richardson. Burnley's free kick. Long one there by Colin Waldron, too long in fact, and a goal kick to Fulham. Things have changed at Fulham with new stands and new players and new managers, but that faithful old Craven Cottage has been there so long. Now Mullery. Richardson. Played wide for Callaghan. Fulham forwards badly outnumbered though, and Stevenson getting for this one and beating Richardson in the air for it. Brown. Fulham again coming for a last gasp though, with something like 7 minutes left. Oh, and Barrett going past his man Newton very well. The low cross, and cross going in. That was a good cross though by Barrett, and Roger Cross was right in there, needed just the merest touch. And now Collins. Burnley's throw. Casper ran very well away from that Fulham defence and crossed it as well, but something not to the referee's liking. No, he's just given the goal kick, though, to Fulham. Richardson, Mullery nodding it on nicely there for Cross and taking the return pass well. Barrett's gone on ahead of him and it's too hard for Barrett. That looked promising for Fulham though, but instead it's Thomas for Burnley. Dobson. Burnley probably getting to the point where they would settle for a point with something like 2 minutes left, not to take too many chances. Fulham really have got to launch something spectacular now to make this worth 2 points instead of 1. Oh, instead of that, it's Casper creeping in behind that Fulham defence with a chance to turn it back, and Stan Brown getting it away. Nobody gets it away. James just fractionally over once more. With that Fulham goal area for the moment strewn with bodies as Miller and Brown and Went and Dunn all tried to protect that goal, and James, who from really a very good position indeed, flashes it over the bar. Cross. Oh, he sneaked past Thompson well there, but the cross won't get through to Richardson because Waldron once more is there. The last few seconds of the game, a little bit of injury time. Dunn planting another ball forward and Barrett is onside, but Thompson should get there again before him. Oh, he's put it over his goalkeeper's head, and oh, and it very nearly went in. What a tremendous, dramatic finish that might have been. Richardson hurling himself at that ball. The bad cross, what Thompson was thinking about at that stage of the game, only he can say. Too high for Stevenson, and very nearly a gift goal for Richardson. But instead, there's Went up there again as Mullery takes another corner for Fulham, and Waldron nods it away. Stan Brown trying to turn it back again to find an angle for himself, and he's found it. But that time it was Fletcher coming back to help the defence. Callaghan. Went. Cross. And now Barrett in on the blind side of Newton. And he didn't even get a corner. Newton clear to Collins. And this time a much more orthodox back pass to Stevenson. That really would have been a point thrown away if Fulham had been able to get that one with Thompson. Such an incredible back pass. And it stays at 1-1 because there's the final whistle, with goals in the first place by Leighton James after 2 minutes of the first half, equalised by Paul Went, who came up for the corner, the equaliser for Fulham 5 minutes into the second half. Which leaves us with a scoreline in the second division game at Craven Cottage that reads Fulham 1, Burnley 1.
So 2 goals and 5 bookings at Craven Cottage, not a happy score, and we should be looking at those bookings a little later on. We'll also be looking at some wonderful stuff between Manchester City and Norwich, and our bonus match, as I said, the goals of Leeds United against West Bromwich Albion. I suppose the Fulham fans left Craven Cottage just a little disappointed yesterday after that result, and after the game I asked skipper Allan Mullery if he shared that disappointment.
First half, Brian, yeah, especially, but the second half, I think, you know, there was a lot of character in the side, which we hadn't seen in the first half. I was very disappointed, I think, at half-time when we went in and spoke about it, but pleasing in the end that we gave a lot in the second half, which we didn't do in the first.
Because Fulham have spent a lot of money, haven't they, in the close season, on you and on Paul Went as well. Do you think the side is going to be that much better than the side that narrowly escaped relegation last season?
Well, I hope so. I hope that, you know, the two of us can make it a better side. You know, we're not going to perform miracles, there's no doubt about that. But we're just hoping that we can make them a better side than they have been. You know, in time, we hope that not only the side will improve, the club, professionalism in the club, all these sort of things combined. You know, we hope to make them a better team in the end.
What do you think basically has got to be done on the field of play now?
Well, I think we need a lot more endeavour, as we showed in the second half of the game. You know, the first half they started off very brightly, Burnley, and they looked a good side after they'd scored, you know. And you could see in one or two of our players, where they've been going on through the years and they've been behind and things like this, they dropped their head a little bit, and we got completely outplayed in the first half, you know. But I think we saw a little bit of character from people in the second half. They wanted to come out, they wanted to fight, and they wanted to do well, and I think we did quite well in the second half.
It was never a tough game, but 5 names were taken, including yours.
And Mullery's gone on as Burnley came forward, and Mullery was caught offside, and that was an unfair challenge, says the referee, on goalkeeper Stevenson. Mullery can't believe it and doesn't like it. But referee Toseland says Allan Mullery's name goes into the book.
Yeah, mine was so brutal, wasn't it? Absolutely shocking. You know, I was really ashamed of myself over that.
What exactly happened, your version of it?
Well, it was a laugh, basically. The goalkeeper collected the ball and I just went running up to him and just bumped into him, and we both laughed at each other. And as I turned around, the referee come up and took my name, you know. I said it was a complete farce, but he didn't believe me.
But you're a very experienced player for the First Division, Allan. What is the feeling of players now about, 1, the need for the clean-up, and 2, the way it's being carried out by referees?
Well, you see, I think basically that the referee doesn't see the truly bad foul. I mean, he takes a name, for instance, like he took mine today, where there were 1 or 2 times in the game where players went over the ball, which I think is, you know, it's really a bad professional foul. I hate anybody that goes over the ball. I think they should be sent off.
And you're saying he didn't spot those?
I don't think he did. I think perhaps you might see that on television tomorrow.
So what's your feeling basically about the clean-up?
Well, the thing is, you know, they're taking names for trivial incidents like mine, for instance. You know, I mean, I go in the book now with whatever points I've got. I don't know exactly, but you know, it was a complete joke. You know, I mean, I have to laugh afterwards. It was stupid at the time having my name taken and getting 3 or 4 points, whatever it is. But really, looking at it, it's just like a comedy show, to be honest.
Well, some strong views on the disciplinary situation there from Allan Mullery, and I'm sure Jimmy Hill would also like to comment on those 5 bookings at Fulham yesterday.
I would do, but first of all, let me talk about Fulham. In fact, I don't really want to say much to add to what Allan Mullery has already said about the club. There's a lot of hard work to be done there. In fact, I could give you one clue. I spoke to Mullery after that interview, and he said to me, I think Alex Stock and myself, for that matter, have the most difficult job we've ever faced in football. And I wouldn't disagree with a word of that. There's a lot to be done at Fulham yet. But to take Alan's other point, which is a very interesting one, on the refereeing of that game yesterday, I have a feeling that Mr. Toseland was determined to do his duty, as most referees are at the moment, and let me say at the outset that I'm not against this campaign. But on the other hand, Mr. Toseland was doing his duty so severely that I think at times the players were a little confused as to his interpretation of the laws. For instance, I felt that there really should be 3 grades of offences. First of all, those that are legitimate. Secondly, those that are fouls and for which the punishment is a free kick to the other side. And then the grade of offences that go over the top, those that are malicious and deserve a name take or a sending off. I think there's a danger that if you apply the laws as severely as Mr. Toseland, you miss out the 2nd grade of offences. Let's have a look at some of those incidents yesterday and see if I can explain to you what I mean by that. The first one was a foul by Colin Waldron, a tackle from behind. As the ball's played up here by Stanley Brown, he plays it along the floor to Richardson. See the tackle from behind. Was that malicious? Was it too strong? He did nibble at the back of the man's feet, but on the other hand, could that not just have been a foul and not a name take? Let's look at the second one. This is young Mike Doherty, Tommy Doherty's son here. Mullery is taking the throw. They're at the right of the screen now. Barrett collects, and you can see he does trip him. That was a trip. He was a bit deceived by Barrett's movement. Barrett was annoyed about it and gave him a shove, but his name goes into the book. Now, the third offence is an interesting one. Watch Mullery's tackle here on Casper. There it is. He's hacking away at his feet from behind. One could say he may have gone for the ball, but I would have thought he was a bit away from it. But who gets his name taken? Frank Casper, because he retaliated and he pushed him. Now let's look at what I think was the most interesting name take yesterday, referring to Allan Mullery's remarks that it's players who sometimes go over the top of the ball and make a late tackle who get away with it. Look at this one now. This is when Paul Went got his name taken. The ball's played up here by the Burnley player, and you can see it runs away from Casper. He gets it again, and look at that kick from Went. That looked really the most severe tackle of the whole lot. And the referee had no doubt there that he should take Went's name. But it isn't always the referee's fault when he misses the severe tackle that may have come before. If you think it is, and that he should always spot everything on the field, I want you to look at that last incident with me again now and see who you think was the offender. As it comes up, watch Casper here as it runs away. Now look at that tackle. And then you can see the one that comes after. Now it's that kind of tackle, the tackle from Casper on Brown, that Allan Mullery was referring to. And you can see how a referee in following the ball might easily miss the original incident. Well, so much for that, but if players have a cause for complaint at the moment, and I think they have, it's because referees from one to the other are a long way from being consistent. If you don't believe that, just let's look at an incident that you'll see in the game later on between Manchester City and Norwich. It's Tommy Booth making a tackle on Graham Paddon, and no name was taken. It runs away from Booth, he wants to get it back, or does he? That, for me, is violence, and that's where players should have their names taken and get sent off.
Well, Jimmy, to reinforce what Jimmy said at any rate, Tommy Booth did not get his name taken for that foul at Main Road yesterday. Our second match on the programme today is also our bonus match. It's the one when we go around looking at the ITV regions to find something of particular interest for you on Sunday afternoons. Now, we thought last weekend that Leeds United at Chelsea didn't really have a chance to do themselves justice. So we pick them up again now, and it's Leeds United against West Bromwich Albion at Ellen Road. The pictures come from Yorkshire Television, the commentator's Keith Macklin, and Leeds are in white.
A little room. Jordan. Clark. And Bates again. We start from the beginning again. Charlton. Lorimer. A good save. A goal. The finishing touches by Sniffer Clark. West Brom has capitulated finally. Across from Bates. Header from Charlton. And it's Lorimer's shot palmed out to Clark. And Clark the goal. Brown, Suggett and Gould and Weil are all in the penalty area. It's clipped low for Tony Brown, hovering deep. And a good effort by Brown, a well-planned move. That good shot, curling all the time, but just a little wide and high. There's Tony Brown. Stayed back deep for that square ball. Clark from that header by Jordan, just over. And Clark, I think, is telling Lorimer off for getting across his line of vision. Wild. And it's Madeley bringing it down. Jordan and Bremner racing for that. Jordan getting it to Bremner. Now Leeds seeking that second goal. Crowd getting rather impatient with them. Bates, Clark trying to shoot. Oh, at the bar! Bates. Bremner's injured. Giles. Another great effort by Clark at the foot of the post. Bates up towards Jordan. Jordan back. He was offside. So Clark coming within inches of making it two. While up comes Lorimer. Lorimer still, and it's behind as he was creeping over the line. John Weil stuck his toe out. Lorimer almost forcing the ball over the line, and just as it was inches from the goal line, Lorimer just despairingly, and Weil pushing it behind. Bates a header, Cantella returning it. That was Tony Brown going in for the shot and hitting Charlton. And if ever a man is really playing well for the place that was insecure, it is Charlton. Robertson. Lorimer being chased by Alistair Brown, kept it in play well. And finds an open space. Well, now Jordan can run. It's over the top of Weil. Jordan! And he's gone out and maybe certainly is a penalty. Jordan brought down by the combination of Weil and Nisbet.
Johnny Giles to take the penalty. Giles, who scored a penalty against Sheffield United, with a chance to make it Leeds United 2, West Bromwich Albion 0, and one would say a fair reflection of the scoreline if this happened. Graham Smith, a thankless task. There's the goal. 2-0. Goalkeepers haven't much chance in those circumstances, and Johnny Giles coolly putting it away. Leeds United 2, West Bromwich Albion 0, and the match now beyond doubt.
Well, next it's your letters, and something I really enjoy getting this week from Hugh Farron of Clonmany, Lifford, County Donegal in Ireland. He sent me this copy of the Daily Express for 1933, October the 9th, which had been, in fact, under a piece of lino in his home for 39 years. But the headline that caught my attention was this one here in the Trevor Wignall column, a famous journalist of the day. A warning to Sexton, it says. Well, of course, we had Dave Sexton in our programme last week, but this turns out not to be the Chelsea manager, of course, but Dave's dad. And the article goes on. Archie Sexton, who tonight at Manchester fights Jock McAvoy, in fact Dave's dad was a very famous boxer, for the British middleweight title, was born in Bethnal Green in 1908 and is married and the father of 2 small sons, David and Terry. We've got that wonderful picture of Dave. There he is, only 3 years old then, I'm told, which Dave has given us kindly for the weekend, in the arms of his father. In fact, his father had a very good professional record. Although he lost that particular fight to Jock McAvoy, he was stopped in the 10th round. At that point, he'd had 174 contests, of which he'd lost only 10. And in fact, he had a marvellous knockout record because 84 of those opponents had been knocked out. So Dave's father obviously had quite a dig to him. A whole bag full of mail, of course, referring back to last week's match between Chelsea and Leeds. And one of them, from 6 angry Leeds United supporters, attacked Jimmy Hill for not showing again that the Leeds United goalkeeper David Harvey, they said, was deliberately fouled by a Chelsea player. Remember, he had to go off and Peter Lorimer came on.
You see here that that wasn't so, but in fact Harvey was injured as a result of his own great enthusiasm to get to that ball. In fact, it was such a long cross, he might well have stayed on his goal line, but the fall there gave him the concussion, which in the end got him off the field.
So proving quite conclusively that Chelsea were not to blame. More letters from you next week. More action coming up now, and great action it is too, between Manchester City and Norwich City. Really to answer 2 questions. Are City as bad as their early season form suggests? And what sort of impact will Norwich City make in the First Division? The commentator is Gerald Sinstadt. The pictures come from Granada, and this is Manchester City on the attack.
To give Jeffries the touchline. Summerby. 2 men in the middle. Davis going in, and it's come out to Lee, and he's poked it in. Nearly 14 minutes into their 3rd game of the season, Manchester City get their first goal from this cross by Summerby, with Davis harassing Keelan so he can only palm it out. Davis for Summerby. Lee hooked out for Towers and timed into his path to perfection. And Lee back in there again. An awkward one for him to hit, and he didn't quite get the power on it that he would have liked. But a fine move. Booth's free kick, looking for Davis's head, doesn't find it, but City get a free kick as Duncan Forbes pushed Wyn Davis in the back. Ball will have to go back somewhere about by the penalty spot, because the arc there absolutely gives the distance. Semicircle drawn 10 yards from the penalty spot. Lee. And a good save by Keelan. All Lee's power behind that one. No offside given, although Butler was asking. Summerby. Bell. Lee! Foul given against Summerby. This is Jeff Butler. Booth's header. It's come for Livermore. And he was very unlucky then. Controlled it well with his right foot and hit it very hard with his left, and it went zinging away off the angle. Butler. Cross. Bell for Manchester City. Duncan Forbes penalised. Free kick to Manchester City. Barrett for Summerby. Barrett again. Good shot! Briggs. And that was a very bad ball, and here's Davis in. Terrible ball by Anderson. Nice little flick on by Livermore for Patton. Takes it back, gives it to Bone. And Bone almost found a way through there. He was obstructed by Jeffries. And with 3/4 of the game gone, Norwich are beginning, inch by inch, to begin to believe in themselves. They were almost blown away in the first half. Manchester City failed to turn their superiority into goals and could yet be made to pay for it. Patton on the ball, played for Stringer, who's hit it well! And that changes the whole complexion of this game. David Stringer, Norwich City's Player of the Year last season, with a very well-worked free-kick routine. Just the narrowest of gaps after Francis Lee had lined it up. Here it comes now, Stringer finding a way through that gap with a very good shot. And in fact, while we were looking at that replay, the linesman attracted the attention of the referee. Mr. James went over and had a word with him, and he has disallowed the goal, we think, for offside. Lee for Bell, and he's made something of it. Hit it too hard. Tried to drive it across the back of the box to Doyle, who is asking for a penalty for handball. Good header by Booth. Bell, and handball, it's in! Payne tried to touch it off, but Bell had scored after Booth had worried Keelan in the air. And so Norwich, within seconds of thinking they were on terms, are now 2 down. This is how it happened. Booth in the way, and in spite of that dive by Payne, which would have given away a penalty and would probably have got him booked, in fact the ball straight in the net, and it's 2-0, Bell the scorer. Bell. Doyle. This could be number 3. Too hard. Francis Lee picking it up, and Doyle still down on his back in the penalty area. Technically in an offside position, but hardly interfering with play. And the whistle has gone.
City have already brought on their substitute. Play restarting with a free kick. Bell, and into Lee's path. That's a beauty. That was a superb goal.
And one of the best plans of free kicks that you'll ever wish to see, saying quite clearly that Manchester City are right back in form again. That's it. Hope you've enjoyed the programme once more. Remember, On the Ball next Saturday lunchtime in World of Sport. The big match next Sunday afternoon. Our last bit of action, of course, is the bit of action, I suppose, that left all Fulham fans saying, if only, if only. That scramble in the last minute that meant 1 point instead of 2.
The last few seconds of the game, a little bit of injury time. Dunn planting another ball forward, and Barrett is onside. But Thompson should get there again before him. Oh, he's put it over his goalkeeper's head, and oh, and it very nearly went in!